Do you find like the rec league? Do you find like the rec league was a good start for you? Like, would you recommend like that's kind of like a good segue into competitions, or
I do.
would you just say like you just you dive right in?
I think it was a good way to start because even if you fail, you got to keep going, so it wasn't that super discouraging. Like, I'm new to the sport and I fall and embarrass myself on the first or second obstacle, and then I'm done.
Yeah.
So I think it was a good way to kind of get into it and get the flow of things.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to Ninjaverse TV, show where we take the best Ninja Warrior athletes, put them to the test. I'm Mike Rabert.
I'm Jordan Thurston.
I'm Taylor Johnson.
Today we're going to be talking to Taylor just about her training. She was in our latest episode of Ninjaverse, competing against Kira, Addie, and Lindsay. We're just going to be talking about the competition, her training, and what her thoughts are on the sport of Ninja Warrior in general. To get started, you want to tell us about your background a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So I'm from Foxborough, Massachusetts. Growing up, I did gymnastics for 9 years, and then I transitioned into competitive cheerleading, which I did in high school and at East Celebrity Elite. And then I went on and was a Division I athlete at Quinnipiac University. I did acrobatics and tumbling, and I was a MVP and All-American there, which was a lot of fun. And then I ended up finding Ninja Warrior.
So we were talking about this a little before. Can you tell us the difference between gymnastics, cheerleading, and acrobatics?
Okay, well, hopefully you know the difference between gymnastics and cheerleading.
Yeah.
You get that part.
Yeah, that part you get. Acrobatics tumbling is something that not many people know about. So it is a college sport, so actually just recently it became an emerging sport for the NCAA at the Division I level.
So you can compete in acrobatics as well.
So you can,
I thought that was just. I thought acrobatics was just like the activity, like you train, like it was just fun.
No, acrobatics and tumbling is like a growing sport in college.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was kind of a way to give females more opportunities to compete in college athletics. We have like a big roster, so.
Was it all females?
Yes, yeah. So it's kind of deals with a lot with like Title IX and stuff like that. But a lot of people who do that come from either gymnastics or cheerleading. We had some trampoline people, power tumblers, really a mixture of all different things. So, I mean, me coming from gymnastics and competitive cheerleading kind of gave me a good background to succeed in acrobatics and tumbling. So there are a bunch of schools that have it. I mean, Quinnipiac University, where I went, and then there's Oregon University, Baylor University, Fairmont State, some of those good schools. So, yeah, so it's kind of like making, like cheerleading, you would do 2 minutes and 30 seconds and that would be it. This kind of breaks it down into different events. So
Like
kind of similar to what we're doing here with Ninja.
Yeah.
So it was like 3, 4, 5, 6. There's like 6 different events and there's different heats within the event. So you just.
What are the events?
So like compulsory, which is like basics.
Okay.
And then it goes into acro, where there's 3 different acro heats. They all have different kind
So
of
you
things
just like
that go
on
by
like
them.
open floor, like you're like an open floor.
Yeah,
routine?
so it's 2 teams.
Okay.
So there's 2 teams, and
Oh,
they're
you do
going
it
head
as
to
a team.
head.
It's not like individual events or anything.
So it also is individual events.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's super confusing. It's very complicated.
All right.
That's why I was trying not to get into details, but now you're asking them, so I guess so.
Yeah, sorry. Bring this back in now.
Yeah, so there's just like different events. There's a halftime, and then you come back and like
Alright.
you could do tumbling events where there's 4 of you tumbling all together synchronized, and then there's tumbling events where you would do it by yourself, but you would have to have like certain elements with it, but there would be someone else you'd basically be kind of competing against. And then at the end there is a team routine, which is more kind of where the cheerleading routine kind of comes into play. So it's still like the 2 minutes, 30 seconds of kind of everything you did before all together in one event. And that's when there's like a bunch of people on the mat at the same time. So.
And
Yeah.
how long did you do that for?
4 years, so I did it.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
all through college.
All through
Yeah,
college.
yeah.
All right, and then so what led to like you finding like Ninja Warrior and doing that now?
So Quinnipiac is in Hamden, Connecticut, which is also where New Era Ninjas, which is now Real Life Ninja Academy, and me and one of my friends who I was on the team with, and then another one of our friends, like, randomly decided. So my friend's mom loved Ninja Warrior, and she was like, "You guys gotta go try it out." And we were like, "Okay, I guess so." So we randomly went one night, and we were playing on obstacles, and it was just like a lot of fun. Like all of us, like that was amazing.
How did you do like when you first like?
I was terrible.
Really?
Oh my god, I was so bad.
You didn't find like all the the acrobatics and gymnastics. Did you find like it like translate well or no?
No.
See,
literally, I had to throw my techniques out the window for a lot of things. Like laches, like it took me forever to get a lache.
So like in my mind, we talked about this with like Luke a little bit because he had a background in gymnastics.
Yeah.
And in my mind, like that would be like the perfect background for like what ninja is now.
Yeah.
And he brought up a good point, which I haven't thought about, where everything is just so strict and technical, and it's hard to relax and release and being able to, just work on like efficiency and flow and throwing different things. And I thought that was an
So
interesting
true.
point. So it's
It
interesting to hear you say it didn't translate that well.
Yeah.
'Cause I would think
Especially,
acrobats and
Yeah.
who's the other acrobat that's popular on Ninja? He's popular on Instagram too.
Tarzan.
Yeah, what's his name?
Nicholas Coolidge.
Yeah, like he's phenomenal. You think,
Yeah.
well, he has a background in acrobatics.
Yeah.
It's easy, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's easy to go down that and see like
That's true,
the
yeah.
background. But again, it's a hard sport that translates to, So
Yeah.
so you didn't do too well, huh?
I think like once you understand the new technique, then it becomes easier for a gymnast.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a matter of breaking the technique that you've been doing for years.
Mhm.
Because like when you're doing, let's say, giants around a bar, like you're holding onto the bar the whole time and stuff. Whereas like when you're doing a lache, you're like releasing mid swing, and the swing is completely different. Like usually you're like super tight and hollow on the back, and you like tap at a certain time. Which the tapping is good when you're lacheing up, but when you need a lache forward, it's a completely different thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wasn't good at the beginning. It definitely took me a little bit.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so after that first class, what did you like about it that made you kind of get
what brought
hooked
you
on
back?
it?
Yeah, I would say a few different things. I had taken a year after I graduated college, and not really known, I didn't know what to do with myself because I had always been an athlete growing up and always had a coach telling me what to do for a workout. So going there, I was like, oh, this is like a new challenge for me, like always having something to strive for. And having that back was awesome. And there was always something in the gym that you could be working on that you could be getting better at. And obviously going in the first time, I sucked at everything, so there was a lot of opportunities for me there. But yeah, I think just the fact that I was able to like get in a gym again and kind of have something to strive for and set goals for again was super helpful and really kind of
What were your goals when you first set them?
Such a good question. I know the warped wall was one of them.
Okay.
I know the other one was gain upper body strength in general. Because when I first went to the gym, I could 3 pull-ups was my max. And those were like a struggle. So, and I could see other people around the gym just banging them out, and I'm like, I feel like a weak bastard. So I need to get stronger. So I know warped wall was one, and I know upper body strength. I can't remember what the third one was, but I know there were 3. Maybe it was a lache. It might have been a lache.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you did that long enough, and then you eventually became a coach, correct?
Yes.
All right. So how was that?
So it was good. I think becoming a coach was a big thing that kind of catapulted me into you being even better at ninja, because you take on a different mindset, you get a different point of view.
Especially having to break down the technique, which you said was
Exactly.
one of the bigger challenges. If you're constantly applying that information, then if that was one of your bigger challenges, it seems like being a coach would be a good fit.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember one of the things that I would always do is when I'd be coaching the kids on the warped wall, I was like, keep your chest up, saying it over and over again. So then later that night when I was going to train, I was like, okay, I told the kids, keep their chest up. I gotta keep my chest up. So it just just hearing it in your head over and over again, coaching the kids, it just kind of puts that into yourself and into your own training as well.
Yeah. What gets you into actually competing?
So when I first started, I did the Rec Ninja League, which was the thing below the NNL. And I cleared the course on my very first thing that I did.
Nice. Which one did you do?
Action. It was Action.
Oh, you did Action in real life? Or
Action Rec League.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't remember what year that would have been. 2018.
I think they started in 2018. I think
Yeah.
that was the first year for it. They
Yeah.
did another one last year.
So yeah, so I cleared the course on that, and I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. So then I was like, it's like okay, like I actually qualified for NNL Worlds through the rec league that first year because like whoever the top one is after the season qualifies. So then my first NNL.
Infamous.
Yeah.
Season 5 finals.
So like when you were like,
Yeah.
go
So
do that.
I met Mike.
Yeah, that's when we became friends. I was thinking about that.
I
today,
wouldn't call
actually.
us friends at that point.
Well, that's when
Nobody
I
was happy
actually
that day.
No,
Yeah.
no.
Do you find like the rec league? Do you find like the rec league was a good start for you? Like, would you recommend like that's kind of like a good segue into competitions, or
I do.
would you just say like you just you dive right in?
I think it was a good way to start because even if you felt you got to keep going, so it wasn't that super discouraging. Like I'm new to the sport and I fall and embarrass myself on the first or second obstacle, and then I'm done.
Yeah.
So I think it was a good way to kind of get into it and get the flow of things, and then kind of prepared me a little bit more for the NNL, especially because in the rec league you have to have like one NNL level obstacle. So I think it gave me a feel for like what a full NNL course would be like too. So I think it was a good transition. I mean, I know there are people who also just say, whatever, I'm just going to sign up for an NNL and compete. So.
Yeah.
How did you feel the jump was between the rec league and the regular season NNL?
Well, going off of how I went in my first rec comp, I cleared the course. My first NNL, I fell in the first obstacle.
So the first NNL was exactly like finals, like right, like you did the rec league and then you went straight to finals. You didn't try any other NNL.
No, I did do NNLs that
okay.
season. Yeah,
All right.
yeah. So because rec league is like kind of over the summer, so you have like a really big gap.
That's what I was wondering. 'Cause
Yeah.
you said finals. So
Yep. So it was like rec league, and then I did NNLs.
Okay.
So yeah, that was a good transition.
And you fell in your first obstacle.
I did fall in the first
Which
obstacle.
NNL was this?
Action.
Also action.
He called me out.
Well, I mean, you touched the
So
ground.
that's what you meant when you
I
said you
know.
meant Mike.
I know, yeah.
Screw that guy.
Yeah.
He was just like this.
What
Like
was the
I remember
obstacle?
exactly. He was like,
In my defense, you ran into the wall.
I did run it.
and
I
you
ran
touched the
straight
ground.
into the wall.
So I was
I
just
did.
doing my
Was
job.
it the
I
moon
did.
rock?
It was the moon rocks,
It was the
yeah.
moon
That was a tough first.
I tried
was
to
a
run
tough
through
first
them
one,
because
yeah.
I watched all the kids do it, and I was like, oh, the kids run through them. I can run through them.
Did you go early
Oh yeah, like
in the wave also?
I think I was like middle.
Middle, okay.
I think I was middle. Yeah. But yeah, just ran straight into the wall.
Yeah.
So then I was super pissed.
So falling on the first obstacle though, that's like everybody's like biggest nightmare. I think when they start competing. So like talk a little bit about that. Like, did it mess with you, or you're like, you know what, this isn't for me, or you know what, this is a waste of my time and money, or like was anything like that there, or was it just like I gotta get better at moon rocks?
So I had a whole bunch of family there, like a decent amount of family there, and it was my first comp.
What a douche.
Right?
You're looking at me as if I created that obstacle.
Jeez. Well, that's
Yeah,
messed
so-
up,
Doing my
man.
job.
Family was there.
Yeah, right.
They're like, no, I put in it. I think she
Keep going.
keep going.
I think that like, I think I knew I'd worked so hard, and like, I don't know, it was super upsetting, and I think I was upset that I had a bunch of family there, and they were there, and I was on it. I was there for 5 seconds, not even maybe.
Yeah. Well, that's always in
ran.
everybody's head, right? I mean, that's always
yeah.
that's the biggest obstacle to overcome is just
The
am
first
I
one.
gonna fall on that first obstacle, you know? So.
Yeah. So it kind of lit a fire under me more than anything. So I'm not the kind who I would like get discouraged by it. I got like super motivated. I went home and I signed up for an NNL the next weekend, which was VertiQuest in New Jersey. And I was like, I'm going into that one. I completely changed my mindset. I knew that I was being too hard on myself going. I was like way too intense going into the first one. So I was like, I'm gonna go down to this New Jersey one. Like, no one's gonna be there. Didn't have any family, nothing. Like, I'm just gonna go out and do some ninja things. And I ended up getting second, which made me feel better because I was like, that's what I was more or less hoping for.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a change of mindset, and it kind of lit a fire under me too. So, and then I found out that you got money. I had no idea. They handed me an envelope, and I opened it, and I was like,
They didn't give you cannonballs from 3 balls. These are 3-inch
Yeah.
cannonballs. Thanks for coming.
Second place, you're lucky if you get a cash prize.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's nice.
It was.
Not too, all right, so being a part of the National Ninja League kind of started like the competition career for you, and you said it was a pretty good segue to get involved into. But then you've done other competitions as well. So you were on American Ninja Warrior last season.
Yep.
Season 11. Season
Yeah.
11. So what was that? Do you feel like that competition was the experience that you had in the NNL helped at all, or was it like a completely different experience, or was it something that you felt was like kind of like that bonus, or was that always the goal?
I wouldn't say it was always the goal. It definitely was like something like cool, like let me try and do this, because the year before in season 10 I was a tester in Philly, and I didn't do that great, but I got a top tester sticker. So then everyone said like that kind of helps with the next season. So I'm like, okay, well I guess I should get ready if like, so I was gonna apply for the next season because I kind of wanted more experience under my belt. I feel like in one aspect, competing in the NNL and other competitions helps, but on the other hand, it's a completely different animal.
Mm-hmm.
Like it helps you just kind of going mindset wise into competition and getting in like flow of obstacle and running courses and things like that. But it does feel like very different because you're standing on that platform, you've got crowds of people, the lights are in your face, the obstacles are different.
Yeah, I think too, like you look at it and you're like, well, physically, there's nothing, like compared to a lot of NNL courses, it's not really, I mean, you do see some NNL courses, they're 14, 15 obstacles long, where, Ninja Warrior, you start at 6, and they're all pretty straightforward, but that mental environment's gonna change everything.
Yeah, physically though, I think, like I usually can look at one of the courses and be like, I could do each one, I know I can do each one of these obstacles.
Yeah.
Like if I was to stop and do each one, I could do it. It's just a matter of like we were saying, like the whole environment and the whole atmosphere, everything that's going on. It's just like if you can put everything together on that day, that's when you're gonna run your best course.
How did you approach that mentally? Because last year was your first year doing it, so the only frame of reference you really had was NNLs.
I think I put a lot of pressure on myself.
Okay.
And I had a lot of energy going into it. Like my adrenaline was through the roof. And I think it was to the point where it was almost too much that I wasn't fully thinking about things. Like looking back now, there are things that I know mentally I would have changed about doing it. So I don't know, I think that, I don't know, it's like, it's hard to compare the two because it's different.
That's fair. And then you've also done, did you do 1 or 2 UNX competitions?
2.
You did 2 UNX. What do you think about like the differences between the NNL, the UNX, and A&W? Like, how do you think about either preparation for each one of them, like going into one of the competitions, or how you feel about each of the competitions? Kind of what differs between each of them?
Yeah. So NNL, I feel like you get a lot more of like, not people who are training all the time, like it could be just people who just started coming to the gym, so you have like a really big range. You have like people who have been in the sport for years, and then you also have people who just started, all competing against each other. But then if you go to UNX, it seems like it's a little bit more the high level of people who have been around and they train all the time and things like that. So that one's definitely different. I felt like in UNX, I felt a little bit more pressured for speed. I don't know if that was.
Which ones did you do? You did real life and.
I did real life. Nope, I went to Jungle Gym.
Okay.
Yeah. So I didn't do great at either of those, and I think it was because I let the speed aspect get in the way of my mental approach to the course. Because on the female side of things, in each competition, you needed to get to a certain point at a certain time, and I knew that going into it. Like at Jungle Gym, I was the last female to run, so I knew I need to get to this obstacle in this amount of time. So I needed to go fast, but then I went too fast for my own pace.
That racing to a certain point is always the
yeah, and I feel like that happens a lot on the female side of things. Like there's a lot where on the men's side of competition in general, a lot of guys will actually clear the course. There'll be like at least 3 guys usually that clear a course, whereas females it's usually like halfway, third. There's always a point that you have to race to. And then A&W, it can kind of be the same thing. Like when I competed last year in season 11, it was a race to the bridge, the
dangerous curves.
Dangerous curves, yeah. It was either you get through it and you qualify. That was the third obstacle. Yeah. So you only did 2 obstacles before that. I think 3 or 4 people actually cleared that. So if you cleared that obstacle, you were moving on. So it wasn't a matter of hitting a buzzer, which is completely different on the guy side. There were guys hitting buzzers all night.
Yeah.
So I think, I don't know, it's definitely a difference in all of them.
So you compete pretty frequently then. Does that like affect your training at all? Do you consider like, are you like one of the ninjas that will just do a lot of competitions and train very minimally, or is there a specific training routine that you follow or anything like that?
Yeah, so I try and not do every competition. Like I know there's a lot of like in the New England area, there's usually a competition every single weekend that you could be going to at some radius around here. So I try not to do that. One of the reasons is simply because it's expensive. Honestly, if it wasn't as expensive, I probably would be doing more of them. But with that, I try and, because the week leading up to a comp, I'll try and lighten up my load a little bit. Like I won't be training as hard. So having those weeks where you're not going to have a competition that weekend, you can focus on like getting good training in. Like say I competed at a few comps and like there was something wrong in all of those, like either whether that was my mental aspect going into it or physically, like I didn't have the endurance to go through it. I'll take those extra weeks and I will focus on that and try and better myself for that next one, so I don't have those same problems happening again. So I think my training kind of varies, and it's kind of varied over the years too. I know when I first started, I was super into like just doing one obstacle, so like focusing on doing one obstacle every single time. And then I noticed that I wasn't great at doing courses, and I kind of avoided doing courses. So then my second year, I tried to focus on courses, but then I didn't focus on individual obstacles enough. So it's kind of a balance that you really got to try and figure out. So I think I'm starting to get a better hold on it and also in terms of what you're preparing for. So if you're preparing for a long course, you want to be ready for a long course. But if you're doing like an NNL, but if you're preparing for A&W, it's 6 obstacles, but it's a different format. So A&W tries to pump you out usually really quick, so you have to train differently for that. So I think there's always different aspects that you could be training.
And what do you typically do? Like, so what would be like a normal like training day for you?
So is pre-COVID or post-COVID? Because there's a big difference.
So we need to stop talking about COVID.
Well, I don't. There's a big
feels
difference.
like it's the only thing anybody ever talks about anymore. It makes me sad and depressing. So let's just go like
ideal world.
Let's go ideal world. Yeah.
Okay, so no COVID.
Yeah.
So I mean, ideal world where I didn't even have to work, that would be phenomenal.
So like, let's say like leading up to last year's A&W. Like what would be a
last year's
typical
A&W.
training routine?
Okay, so I would I'm trying to think what I would do. There were certain obstacles I would think about that I think that they possibly could have. So I knew I had never done an hourglass drop, but that's been in A&W, and I was like, that's a skill I haven't done, so I need to try and do that. Also going into that, I knew there was a lot of trampoline work, so I worked a lot of trampoline work. But then on other days, I would do really long courses to try and pump me out. Like there were days where I would have a coach be like, okay, go do that obstacle, and like not tell me what it was ahead of time. So I really liked that because it makes you prepared for anything, which is, in a course, you're just kind of going with what's in front of you. So being able to do just like one thing at a time. So, I mean, I take a long time to warm up. So my warm up is I try and be extensive with my warm up, doing pull-ups, warming up my grip, trying to, because warming up your grip is super important. So doing like dead hangs and kind of things like that. And then I usually will go into, let's say, well, either if I'm doing a course, it'll be like doing the course multiple times in a row, and then ending it with some kind of burnout, whether that's pull-ups, dead hang, something like that. And then on days where it's just obstacles, I'll be working those obstacles, and then I could do like a warp wall burnout, or I could do a kind of obstacle burnout. I could do salmon ladder burnout, or things like that. So
Okay.
I'm kind of all over the place.
Do you think there's anything that you do that maybe other ninjas don't do enough of that you think would be beneficial, whether it be, basic strength training, more recovery work, more mobility work, yoga, anything like that?
I would say the recovery work. I do a lot of foam rolling, or I have a vibrating foam roller that I use, and then a lot of resistance band work. Like I know when I was training over these past few months,
Yeah.
Okay. When I was training over these past few months, I was doing a lot of resistant band work because that was what I had in my basement to be doing, and I was able to work out every single day because it was working my muscles, but not also like
fatigue.
Yeah, it was not like ruining me. So I was able to do it every day, and people were like, "How are you?" And I was doing it like 3 hours a day because I wasn't working. So people were like, "How are you doing that so much?" And I was like, "Well, it's because I'm doing all resistance-based stuff, and I'm doing other kind of things." So, I mean, strengthening shoulders and things like that. Ninjas have so many shoulder injuries. I feel like.
Do you have any injuries?
Do I?
Yeah.
Not right
like
now.
Anything like?
I broke my foot in the fall.
Because I do agree that
You your baby.
I do agree that like injuries run like rampant, and I find like that the reason why is because it's always just playing on that without doing all the accessory work needed, without doing all the recovery work needed. You know, so it's nice to hear. Oh, okay, interrupt me.
Yeah.
We weren't talking about physical health of an entire demographic of people or anything.
Well, this is what I want, because I think a lot of people.
What color resistant band did you have?
Well, I think a lot of people, me included, is always like, oh, I should do more recovery work, and then I like don't know where to start. So could you walk through like a recovery session or a couple exercises that you think are really good or really helpful that you could recommend to people?
Yeah, I mean, luckily for me, I work at TB12, which is Tom Brady's sports performance and recovery center. I know, I didn't want to bring it up, but you guys are asking, so
Go Eagles!
Working. So I'm kind of lucky in that I have access to all of that. That's how I have my vibrating roller, sphere, and the resistance bands and stuff like that. So I actually get body work when I'm done there. So they're actually like working through the tissue and like, because everything gets all like super tense, especially upper body wise. So like every week I'm having them work on my upper body to try and keep things as pliable as I can. So that's like a huge benefit that I feel like I
your
have.
recommendation is work at a recovery studio so you can
yes.
get treatment.
Owned by
Yes.
Tom Brady.
Owned by Tom Brady. Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay, but anyways, I get to like kind of pick the brains of the body coaches that work there a lot, and I ask them for things that could kind of help. So doing a lot of like band work where you're just working those like small muscles in your shoulder. So I mean movements like this. I don't know names of them. They just tell me to do them.
That seems to be a style going into all aspects of training.
Tell me what to do, basically.
No, well, it's good to hear that like you don't have any of the shoulder injuries or the knees or anything like that. When and you put such a big emphasis on the recovery aspect of it. There's definitely that correlation there. So it's good to hear with that.
All right, so last question before we jump into the competition. What do you think the next step in the sport, the growth of the sport of ninja is? Like, where would you want to see the sport kind of go? I just want to keep it open-ended.
Yeah. So I definitely want to see it grow into like a respected sport, because right now people, like if you say you do ninja, they're like, what are you talking about? Or you have to be like, you have to relate it to the show for anyone to have any idea what you've been talking about. And that kind of puts a hard cover over it, because it's just like, oh, it's a TV show. Oh, you do a TV show. Okay, got it. It's like people don't see the whole outside world that this is a competitive sport and people like devote so much time to this. So I think growing it into an actual competitive sport where there's professional athletes would be so awesome, and I think it's something that could totally be done. I think there's no right answer as to how we could do it, but I think getting it out there and showing people what we actually do, because in competitions, like if we're doing the NNL, like you do a few obstacles and then you could fall. On the show, they're kind of promoting the background and the stories of people, and they're showing certain people, so there's different things like that. I think UNX did a pretty good job of starting to get like the actual professional athlete, where you were going for like a pool of money, there was a championship and that kind of stuff. So I think showing what the athletes can actually do, which is kind of what I liked about the Ninjaverse comp, was it wasn't just a course, because that doesn't show exactly what you would be doing, especially with training. So having the other different events, like we had like the wing nut and things like that stuff that we actually do, and people find that stuff so cool. Like when you post things like that, they're like, oh, that's awesome. So trying to get that out there and kind of promoting what we actually do, I think will help in growing the sport. I think having big championships, which is filled with like small, high-level competitors as well, because I think the field can get kind of flooded with just groups of people who just want to do it, but like trying to solidify it and make it highly competitive would kind of help grow the sport as well, because you see what those high-level competitors can do.
Well, that kind of goes back to your background, right, of being in the acrobatics and competing in that, where that was kind of new and it was a smaller, like kind of collegiate. Would you like to see like kind of like Ninja do something like along those lines with like the multiple events, teams, collegiate level, anything like that?
I do. I mean, when I first heard about Ninjaverse and what you guys were doing, I was like, that's exactly what basically happened with me, because like going from cheerleading where it's 2 minutes and 30 seconds, like you fall, you're done, that's it, like that kind of answers whatever, who wins. But then going into acro, you could fall on something, but you could always make it up later. And it kind of reminds me of CrossFit as well. Like there's an athlete who can be really good at one thing, but then not great at another thing, but then it's kind of at the end of the competition, it shows you who the actual best athlete is. So one event shouldn't determine who actually is the best, because I think there are people who have strengths and weaknesses. So if you have a course where it's all of someone's strengths, like yeah, they're going to be the best at that course. But if you have something that has a weakness, like but they could be a phenomenal athlete, you don't get to see that. So I think the multiple events is super helpful. I mean, it takes a different mental aspect as well. Like I know in acrobatics and tumbling, going into a competition, I was much more calm and I would be able to like focus on that one event and then be able to move on and be like, so you have to have that mental aspect to be like, okay, keep this behind. Like, yeah, I might have fallen on that, but that doesn't mean I still can't win. So changing that mental aspect too, I think, is really helpful in competition. So.
Cool.
Yeah, sweet.
Should we get into the spoiler section?
Perfect. Let's do it.
Okay. You got to announce it.
No, I'm just gonna throw a title. Yeah.
That editing skills.
Well,
here's my PowerPoint.
We did it for the Lucas episode where we announced it, and then I just didn't end up using it because it just didn't look good.
Okay.
So,
all right,
we can just jump into questions.
Sweet. All right, so you touched on the multiple event thing a little bit. So would you say you prefer that now, because UNX is fall and done, NNL the rec league you continue on, but we'll keep it into like the bigger competition. So yeah. NNL fall and done, ANW fall and done. So this one was multiple events. Would you say you preferred it, or would you like the fall and done format?
I like the different events because I think it shows different things, kind of like what I was just saying, how it shows different strengths and weaknesses of different athletes. I think going into it, I would train differently. I mean, based off of how I did, I would probably work on some cardio. Would
you like to know the events ahead of time, or do you think that's like having that surprise element of showing up and being like, all right, this is what you got to do, so you got to be prepared for anything? Or would you like to have that 3-4 week notice of like, all right, I'm specifically training for Lachey's, or I got to get on cliffhanger or something like that?
Doesn't make too much of a difference for me. Honestly, I kind of like that you just show up and that's what you have, like that's what you do. I think it creates a even playing field, because say someone like doesn't have a cliffhanger that they can train on or something, but then the other competitor does, then they get to like go at that all the time. So I kind of like it better when it's just you show up, this is what you have to do. I mean, your training should be like a training as a whole. It shouldn't be technically specified for specific events as much as it should be for like a competition as a whole.
You want to be well-rounded.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so we ran a course, you had 2 shots at that.
We had a pretty long course too. We had 14 obstacles, was it?
I think, yeah, somewhere up there. It was definitely a longer course.
Yeah.
Because like as you mentioned before, it always, with the women's side of it, it's always like a race to a certain point. So wanted to try and design something that, was a little bit lengthier. And then we had the course 2 times, we had the wing nut, and then we had the conditioning piece. So out of those 3,
CrossFit workout.
It's a CrossFit workout.
Ninja Fit workout.
Ninja Fit. I like
Mike,
that.
I keep telling you this is not a CrossFit. Sorry. Yeah, no, it was a wonderful workout. So out of those three, what was your favorite?
The wingnut. Probably wingnut to ring. I love laches.
Yeah.
I don't like wingnuts, but I love laches. So I was able to make it work that way. Like I said, when I first started training, I like doing those one kind of obstacle things. So that's kind of what that was. And I love flying through the air, so that was definitely my favorite
So
one.
you felt like that one played to your strengths the most in preference?
Yeah.
All right. What was your least favorite?
The workout.
All right, we'll go back. We'll go back to the wingnut. I don't want to talk about that. All right. So wingnut was your favorite. What did you think about the course?
I thought it was a really good course. I really liked it. I think it had a lot of good moves in it and showed a lot of different things. I mean, you got the 2 runs at it, which was different. I kind of liked it and didn't like it at one point because, like, I mean, if this was a regular NNL or UNX or something like that, I would have gotten second. But with the 2 runs, I ended up getting third, I think.
Third, yeah.
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 Because I was still exhausted from the first one. Yeah. So like for me in that aspect, like it would have been nice just to have that one run, because then I was exhausted for the second run. But in the same point, I know Kira is so strong, and the fact that she went out early, I thought it was really good for her that she did get that second chance to run the course.
She had more in the tank.
Because she did, but she also could have done that obstacle. Like I know she could have. So it was. I know if I was in her position, I would have loved to have that chance too, and I'm glad that she did.
So on the course, what did you feel was like your limiting factor? Was it that endurance piece and the conditioning aspect of it?
Yeah. Those PVC sliders aren't my favorite. They're not like a huge strength of mine. And I felt like my shoulders kind of burned out, and especially, I don't think I was fully recovered from the first course still when I ran the second one. So I was even more. I mean, I made it to the same spot both times, so I'm glad I was at least consistent. But I think that, I don't know, I could have done better.
Yeah,
but
of course. All right, and so you said the favorite event was the wingnut. So say like you like laches, throwing through that. You went with 11.7 was the max.
What was your progression?
What strategy did you call it? The Price is
the
Right.
Price is Right.
Yeah.
Just $1.
Just about what it was.
$101, Bob.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
What was your progression again? It was.
I think I just did 11.
You did
11 and then
11,
11 and I wiped out, and then I did 11 and I got it, so then I did 11.7.
Okay.
Because personally, like I felt like I could go further than that. Like if we had more attempts to do things, I probably would have done the 11.6 like the others did, but then I probably would have went for 12 or something like that. But having only those 3, it made you kind of have to strategize for it.
It was
Worked out.
so strange to me that everyone went in 6-inch increments. I was like, because we told them beforehand, you can pick whatever you want.
Yeah.
Like, I would have done like, I don't know, 11,
11.4.
8 inches. Like,
I want 11
10
feet,
inches.
9 inches.
Yeah.
It's definitely a mental thing going into that.
Yeah, that's fair.
How did you, so without bringing up quarantine, like we're on a couple obstacles beforehand, but you know, the big throws is always something that's hard for people to commit to. Do you feel like the competition and the format kind of helps you with those kind of moves? Or like just big throws in general, having the confidence to really lay into it and put all your power into it? Do you feel like that's a strength of yours, or not being on obstacles, you were a little hesitant?
Especially because you did take a wipeout on the 11 footer.
Yeah.
So it was impressive that you were able to like get over that totally and then throw even further.
I just feel like I have confidence in laches. I love throwing laches. They're my favorite thing to do. So I think just like that feeling of flying through the air, it's like, oh, if I can fly through the air 7 inches longer, that's even more fun. So, I mean, I think I just kind of trust myself in big throws. And not to bring up my height, but like being smaller, usually I can't static things. Usually I'm having to throw myself to things. So I didn't call it an excuse. That's why I made myself good at laches. So that way I don't, like, that's not an excuse. Like, you put me on a bar and tell me I have to go this far, and someone who's 6 foot has to do the same thing, like.
For the record, what's your official height?
4'11".
Hey,
Thanks.
yeah, you gotta get good at laches. Gotta work those
Just be
bad boys.
highest here.
Yeah.
You do.
Yeah, just-
So I think I've always had to throw myself to a lot of things that not everyone has to. So I'm like forced to work on them more.
Mhm.
So, and I like doing them. So I think that's kind of beneficial for me.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, speaking of your small stature, then we get to the workout, and one of the events was
Brilliant strategy.
Yeah, you like that transition?
Nice.
Yeah.
Yep, that was good.
So one of the workouts was a sled push.
Yep.
You didn't have to choose the sled push.
No.
You chose it anyway.
I don't know why.
You want to talk through that?
I guess so.
What was it like when we gave you the time beforehand? So you said, all right, you can think about what you want to do, and you went first, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So you didn't get to see anybody do it, but like in your mind, like were you like, all right, I'm definitely doing the sled, and then I'm gonna do this, or were you like I don't know about it? Like, were you definitely gonna go in and do the sled?
So I had wrote out kind of what I was gonna do, but then at one point I put like, depending on how I was feeling, I was like, okay, do this or this. So that way I would have an option when I got to the point being like, okay, I feel like I can do that right now and I could pick. So I was good in the beginning, and then once I did the sled push, I don't think I realized how heavy it was. Because I think it was like, yeah, I think what was it, 95 pounds? So I think it was 95 pounds, and I weigh like 107. So like, I don't think I thought that through enough. I was really tired at this point.
And how did you feel after you pushed the sled?
I could have just died and stayed there on the ground. I had never felt that bad in my life, because the thing is, like, not to bring up COVID again, but like during quarantine, I wasn't doing much with weight. Like, I was doing a lot of body weight stuff, so I don't know why I would choose something that had weight with it, because my body wasn't used to pushing
It's a
weight.
different kind of resistance too.
Yeah.
Like, you've never pushed a sled
That was just
before,
a
it's-
really bad call. I think what got the best of me was like, I felt like it was a cheat to just go like warped wall laches, just do those back and forth. So I felt like, oh, you have like this big array of things. You should try and do all the things. Like, or like, I was trying to stick to like
That's a good mindset to have.
5 of them. Yeah, that was my downfall.
Yeah.
So
Now-
I wish that I stuck to warped wall and laches.
So Mike's pretty good with the camera, but I'm really hoping that while other people are running the same workout, that there's glimpses of Taylor off to the side.
I still was dying.
And you'll see how it is. I don't know what the video is.
No, I'm definitely in the
Like,
background. of
every
it.
time like Addie or something runs over there, you just see Taylor like, like what's wrong with
I feel like I almost like tripped Kira at one point. Like I was lying.
I think at one point
lying
you were
there.
just lying.
Yeah.
like you needed an apple or something.
It took me a lot to
It
recover
was a
from
while,
that.
yeah. It was a while. You
Well,
were
because I hadn't
definitely
done it, doing 2 courses, doing the wing nuts, and then doing that workout. Like, I hadn't done that much in months, so I was not conditioned for that. Like,
Yeah, what did you think of that? Because one of the things that we've talked about a lot is that when you do a ninja course or ninja competition, it's almost like an active rest day, where you warm up and then you compete for maybe 3 minutes, depending on what the course is.
If you're lucky.
If you're
maybe
lucky, yeah.
more than 5 seconds that I did.
Or
the first time.
Averaging
Yeah.
22 seconds per run.
Yeah. So, what were your thoughts on like how much you had to compete? Like, was it too much, or did you like it that you had to do a lot and then it kind of became a workout?
I liked it, but I wasn't prepared for it.
Okay.
So I think coming into it, like I'd only been doing stuff in my basement, and it wasn't pushing myself to the much that you do when you're actually on an obstacle course. So I do like that aspect. I liked that I was literally lying on the floor dying at the end of it. I just think I would prepare differently for it.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
Cool. So this was also the first competition that we did where it was just women. So part of the goals with Ninjaverse is grouping people together that have similar strengths, so we could play to that a little bit, and different qualities and traits. How did you feel about that? Like just going in a competition knowing it was Kira, Addie, and Lindsay, it was just women, and that's kind of where the expectations were. What did you think of that?
I liked it. I thought it was different, and I liked that the course was. It was a good course because it was hard, but it was like, I never want to say like it's easier than a male course. It's different.
Yeah.
There's differences in
Well, you
the
guys
two.
have different strengths, right?
Exactly.
With body awareness, technique, and
Yeah.
but even designing the course, like when I'm doing a NNL course or something like that, and you see the athletes that are signing up, it's so easy to just be like upper body power,
Yeah.
upper body endurance, and those are the flashing obstacles, So, but even though they're scored differently, like in UNX and NNL, having that just women knowing that these are your competitors was definitely different. So
Yeah,
just,
I like that. Yeah, I did. And looking at the NNL and UNX, like I was saying before, you're having to race to different spots and things like that. It kind of depends on the course. There've been, I think, 2 competitions where I've placed top 10 amongst men and women. So it's not like we can't. It's just a matter of a different setup. Because I think was it Abby Clark or was it Jessie Lebrecht who has won an NNL? Both of them have. That's what I thought. Yeah.
I'm sure there's been a few examples.
Yeah. So it proves that it's not like we can. It's just a matter of making it different.
Kind of goes into it too, where I've never been to a competition where a woman designed the course. Never.
I wonder if Michelle Warnke does.
Yeah, that's the first person I thought.
She's the only person that I could really think of, but yeah, that's a good point.
Even around here, it's always designed by men. So
I know.
that.
April would help a lot with designing of courses too.
Really.
So yeah, but it's also a mixture. It's like a group kind of thing for it. So.
And do you think that's something that should be continued to be done? Because I know a lot of times even on A&W where they go for more of the storylines, they always play up the strong women and they can compete against the men and they can do anything. Do you feel as far as when we talk about the sport and competition that a stronger separation between men and women, especially when it comes to scoring or course design, is a good idea, or do you think it should be come down to who can execute?
I kind of like the separation. I like to think of it in terms of gymnastics. There's men's gymnastics and there's women's gymnastics, and there's different events, and they're both because of the different strengths and weaknesses that men and women have. So I think thinking of it in terms of that and other sports that are out there, they are broken up into 2. There's not, I don't think, is there any sport that has both of them together? Not really.
I don't know. There's gotta be something.
There might be something.
I saw a sport on Netflix the other day where they ride horses and throw a dead goat into a Segway.
What do you watch on Netflix?
No, we're keeping that.
We'll get back to Ninja. It's called something.
It's called something. Good.
I didn't forget the name of that.
They're on horses. There's 5 on each team, and they gotta pick up a dead goat and throw it in this container in the middle, and whoever gets the most points in an hour wins.
I'm concerned at your Netflix choices.
It was good.
Wait, is it too late to pivot? I might just stop doing Ninja.
Yeah, no, I'm dead serious. It's on Netflix. It's not. It's a show, and there's they do a series of episodes on weird sports.
Oh my god! Wait, I know what you're talking about because I started watching it and I was like, "This is weird. I'm gonna shut this off."
So
but you continue to watch it. So
the first episode were these dudes in Florence, and they just bare knuckle fight, and it's like rugby, but they can just wrestle, and they can. There's 27 on each side, and it was incredible. And then they go into the Highland Games, and then they go into free diving, which was cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, then they got one that it was
Dude, that takes a pretty turn.
Yeah, it's those horses is literally just you have a goat, a dead goat, and you just gotta throw it into the thing.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I don't know how to bring it back.
So
no easy segue back.
In other words, you haven't seen it yet. Yeah, so I don't know. There's probably some sport out there where they do mix. I think in India.
Oh yeah.
Actually, I think one episode in the show they have in India they talk about that they make their females wrestle the men.
Oh really? Okay.
But I don't know if that was just
I mean, they do it NASCAR, right?
No. Danica Patrick was the only one.
Yeah.
They're not mixed though.
Oh really?
Do they have their own league?
I don't know.
I don't follow NASCAR.
That was a bad example.
That's some boring shit.
I don't think we have an answer for this. I don't think anyone knows.
Yeah. Alright,
Look
another
at the
segue.
basics.
Hold
At
on.
the basics,
I got another
always
segue.
segueing.
NASCAR is not a sport.
No,
That's we'll get into that another time. Or we can
the
get
thing
into
that
it now.
frustrates me sometimes is that something like NASCAR is insanely popular, and then you see Ninja, and you see how athletic all the athletes are in
I think
Ninja.
anything can be popular. I mean, my wife watches cooking shows. and they're like competing.
Yeah,
and,
but everyone loves to eat.
Yeah, but I mean, they're not even eating. They're just like they're
Right.
cooking. That's the boring part. So I mean, like anything could be interesting.
Competitive dishwashing afterwards.
Hey.
We're getting so off topic here.
Yeah, I don't know what started. Oh, the men and women thing.
Yeah.
I don't know any
So I think,
sports
I mean,
that
looking
are-
at a whole, like, I feel like for the most part they are separated.
Well, it's weird because they want you to compete with the men, and it's always this, but then they play it as the underdog story. So it's like you already have the presumption that they're an underdog because they're women, which again in
Good point.
sports makes that the compelling story, right? It's like nobody wants to see the favorite and the strongest always win. They want to see these guys that either come from, or these athletes that come from, you know, tough backgrounds make it, or these guys that have worked their whole times and they're underdog and they win. So they play into that storyline of women are already presumed to be the underdog, so when they do compete against the men, they do really well, and that's the story they play into. But then at the same time, they want that draw of putting you in that situation to begin with.
So at the same point, it's like saying underdog, it's kind of like saying that we're seen as weaker.
Correct. What makes it compelling is
Is
they're
that
saying
you're seen
exactly
as
what they're
weaker,
trying
but then
to
also
tell.
saying like, oh, look at these strong women.
Yeah, it's
That's a really good point.
it's kind of like a paradox, you know. So
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, it's always great to see it because they play it off as like you're the underdog, you know. But again, just
I think the UNX championships did a really good job.
they had different similar courses but different.
Yeah,
obstacles.
I like
they did a
that.
lot of the same obstacles, but then they like swapped out one or two,
Yeah.
or they like alternate just
I think that's a
slightly.
good way to.
I think that was good too.
I think
Yeah.
it would be good if you started seeing like even like NNLs and like other local comps like here similar to that basis. Like
Yeah.
here's a course for men, here's a course for women. Because and again too, it's tough on like some like women athletes. I'm sure like the top tier ones would be not insulted, but like kind of like what makes you think I can't do
But they
that?
can
Yeah.
You know,
keep
so,
up.
yeah, you know, it's like, oh, I can do that on the men, but I feel like a lot of that's kind of like brushing off a lot of mid-level female athletes or beginner female athletes, you know, giving them the chance. So it's tough.
It's kind of nice to have both. Like have competitions where you can compete both men and women, and then also have ones where they're separate.
Hmm.
I think it's kind of cool to have both
Yeah.
Yeah,
different experiences.
that's fair.
Yeah.
So if you were to compete against anyone in Ninja in any event, kind of like Ninjaverse style, whether it was Lachey or if it was like a course, or maybe you would want to do like a speed course or long course, whatever. Who would you want to compete against, and what event would you want to compete against them in?
Joe Moravsky in a speed course.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. We've done this before.
Really?
Because when we used to train at New Era, we would do like these mini speed courses, and I would like, me and him would go back and forth on times. So we would do like I would go and I would get like a time, and then he would try and go and beat it, and like we would
That's
go back and forth on like
impressive.
a
That dude's
super
explosive.
small.
Yeah, he's really
Yeah,
explosive.
and this is when I was like still newish, like it was like
Yeah.
my first year or so into Ninja. So going head to head was fun. So I think doing that again would be fun. But it would have to be like a super quick course. Like it was like under 10-second kind of course.
Oh, okay.
But
It's like
yeah,
wall
so like
trail.
literally just like go. But I think also, I don't know, does it have to be an individual person or can it be a group? Like a small group?
Group.
Small
Which
group?
are you hating on?
No, no. No,
I would
a
like to
group of
compete
people.
against any Mormon
No.
in a banger competition.
That's not my point.
Anyone from South Carolina, I could take him.
Like a group of people. I'm
No.
curious. What organization you hating on?
That's not what I mean.
Yeah, I get you.
So like, I would love to do like a Max Lachey with like Barclay and like Ashley McConville. Who else is really good?
Bar to bar Lachey, trapeze style.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I'll go with either.
All right.
I don't know. I feel like those would be fun, and they're really good at Lachey's. I think Abby Clark would be a good person to have in that mix too. I think that would be fun. I just love Lachey's, like I've already discussed. So I think it'd be good to get like a bunch of people
Okay.
to like go for Max Lachey.
All right.
Yeah.
It's pretty solid.
Yeah.
You want to do the last one?
Yeah. All right. So out of these 5 obstacles, so we've asked every person we've interviewed to rank these 5 obstacles. You have warp wall, you have salmon ladder, Lachey or trapeze, like kind of like any variation of those, cliffhanger, and jumping spider, and kind of rank them from. You want to go least favorite to favorite? Let's go least favorite to favorite.
So would that mean that number 1 is least favorite?
Yeah. The first one should we talk about is least favorite.
Okay.
So cliffhanger.
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 Definitely
Why?
my least favorite. I don't know. I feel like they really hurt my hands not to be a baby, but I just don't like working them.
I love when everybody talks about cliffhanger. Everybody just automatically goes, "Yeah, cliffhangers." Like they just like.
Well, I'm just like, I know the pain.
They slightly curl their fingers and they look down and they're just like, "Yeah, cliffhangers." And I love them. Or like, "Oh, cliffhangers." I hate
That's true.
it's like everybody just goes cliffhanger.
Well, it is. It's just like, I don't know. I feel like I get pumped out on those easily too. So yeah, definitely not my favorite. It's probably my least favorite. What's the other one? I would say
So you got
spider.
Spider. So before you say spider,
Okay.
think. Now there's jumping spiders.
Yes.
You can swing into them.
Yes.
They're not upper body orientated, which is variation. You can lachey into them. You can walk.
Are
into
you
them.
trying to make
You can
them
body-
sound better
you can
or
body
worse?
prop-
I'm
body-
confused.
body prop.
You could body prop them.
Okay, you're not making this any better. It's
just-
still going to be low on my list.
I just feel like it's a bad rap.
Well,
Yeah.
well,
You
my
are.
problem is I can't always reach. So my upper body. So most of the time when I do spider, like if it's like a normal size spider, I'm just using my legs and my ass burns.
It's a hip. It's a
It burns.
hip obstacle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So usually it becomes just like a solid lower body split where I have to go up and down or forward and back, whatever it is. But yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All
And
right, so
then
that's your second to last.
salmon ladder would probably be number 3. I do like salmon ladder. I have fun with salmon ladder, but I know it's just not one of my favorites. It's kind of in the middle. It's just like I can do salmon ladder and it's fine, but it's yeah. I have a hard time choosing between the next two.
That's interesting because
I
like you've talked about like the laches
I
and like them
know.
being like your favorite, and then the warp wall where it's like 411.
but I love working the warped wall.
Yeah.
Really?
I do.
What about it? Do you like working? Is it just like satisfying?
I think so. Like when I get it, it's super satisfying. So I think in being shorter, I have to work the wall all the time. So I think I've learned to love it. That was actually the first obstacle I did when I ever went to a ninja gym.
Really?
Was go straight to the warped wall. That was the first thing that I did. And I was like, what is this shit? No.
Is that syndrome?
Stockholm
syndrome.
Yeah.
You've got Stockholm syndrome with the
Yeah.
warp wall.
What's that?
Like when you fall in love with something that you like hated, but like
Oh, okay.
you form that love out of like for like your
Yeah.
personal safety.
Okay, yeah. I guess that makes sense.
Like the
Yeah.
comments here and stuff.
Yeah. So okay, so I'd probably say warped wall would be my number 2. It's just like something where if things aren't going well in the gym, like that's one of those obstacles that I'll go to. And I just know I have to work it all the time, and I like working it. I know my technique has to be perfect. So I do like working it. And then lache is like I've been talking about the whole time is definitely my favorite. So.
What's your favorite variation of it? Like, would you say like I like trapeze, like bar, or like because I mean that covers like so many obstacles. It could be wing nuts, flying squirrel. Like what like specifically would be like your favorite trapeze?
Probably
Like,
trapeze to bar.
like just like bar, like
Just
the
bar.
bars, like big
Okay, I
things.
really have to pee.
You went before the interview.
I know, I
started.
have to go again.
We're never interviewing a woman again.
I was gonna say we could just wrap this up.
Yeah. Well, apparently that's the end of the interview. So
You want to just end it there?
I guess that's I mean we got the rankings. What more do we need?
It's a pretty good ending. I was just gonna say,
I feel like we didn't get the most out of the goat game though. I was gonna bring that back
we're
around.
gonna bring it back around.
I feel like we gotta apply that to Ninja somehow. You gotta run through with a dead goat. And like,
You have to carry
yeah,
it
like, yeah, I'm sure cliffhanger is so much harder with this goat attached to my back. Yeah, no, you gotta check it out. It's amazing.
Yeah. All right. I'll watch it.
Well, yeah, so that's the end of our interview, apparently. I'll let Mike close it out.
Yeah. I mean, that's all we got. Taylor's going to the bathroom, so if you haven't watched the episode, make sure to check it out, and make sure to follow Taylor on Instagram. Make sure to follow Ninjaverse on Instagram, and catch you next week.
That went well.
Yeah, that went really well.